Hello everyone. Today we are going to do a mid-year review of the CentreStack web portal. So first, let's log in as the default cluster admin. So the default cluster admin is the administrator who has the highest privilege in the system here. Once he logs in, the first thing he will see is the dashboard. So you can see the tenants. The tenants are like, if you are a managed service provider, the tenants are like your clients, some companies you are working for. And in the tenant manager, you can see the number of tenants that are already provisioned in the system here. And you can click through to each tenant to manage the tenant plan, manage the administrator, reset the password, user manager, team folder, storage manager, and audit trace. So you can do the management work for the tenants you are managing. So that matches the managed service provider's workflow from one single place, being able to control and manage multiple clients. The next thing I'm going to go over is the cluster branding. So branding is a very important part of the solution when the solution is targeting the managed service provider community. CentreStack is a managed file sync and share solution. The reason it's called managed because the audience is for the managed service provider. So it's very important for the managed service providers to be able to brand the solution into their own name before servicing their clients. And now there's worker node. So the concept of worker node is a number of worker nodes can be put into the same server farm to be able to scale horizontally to support a large group of users. There's also a report section in the cluster manager. So you can see it's very responsive, modern, interactive user interface. Under the cluster setting, there's also the version manager, meaning you can have auto client upgrade for the Windows client, for the server agent, and for Mac clients. Under the application manager, you would notice there's a bunch of applications, web applications that are integrated. Under the settings, there are a bunch of settings for the whole cluster to use. So for example, being able to use the two-factor authentication. There are other parts that are grouped into sections under the settings for the class settings section. There's also antivirus. You can click on the edit button, so the editing paradigm is all the same. You can view it, and if you want to edit, you click the edit button there. The languages section may not be useful for managed service providers in the United States, but for European countries and customers from those regions, if there's a specific language you want to use but not included, then you can use that. So far, we covered the cluster manager, cluster administrator interface. So now let's go in now to see what a tenant admin interface is going to be like. A tenant is like a company, a client the managed service provider is working for. So now each tenant, each company will have an administrator themselves. A lot of the management work can be delegated to the cluster admin. But let's say just in case the tenant itself wants to manage a part of the solution, they can do that. And if you compare the tenant administration and the cluster administration, the items there are different. So for example, for the tenant administration, you are managing team folders under collaboration. So team folders is a unit, a folder that multiple people can see together with folder permission. There's also user manager, there's regular user, guest user, and role that you can manage. There's also group policy. Different companies may have different rules, settings. You can set them all in the group policy as a tenant-wide setting everyone has to use. Under the reports, you can see different parts such as the audit trace, the file change log. Under the advanced, you can also set up Active Directory. If the Active Directory is local to the CentreStack server, or in the case that the Active Directory is remote, then you can use the server agent to connect the Active Directory. So there's two different ways to connect that we can cover in other videos. So here's the tenant manager interface. It manages the users. So now let's just zoom in to a specific user to see what a normal user's web interface look like. So I've shown you the cluster admin interface, the tenant admin interface, and now it's a normal user interface. So we are going to switch to a different color so then you would see who is who. And you can see here, a regular user, there's no management interface. There's the only thing he can see is himself and the information related to himself, and then the folders the admin has assigned to him. But he has full privilege to the files and folders view for the files and folders that are assigned to him and then or in his private home directory. So we have different levels of privilege, like the cluster admin, the tenant admin, and then a normal user. So now let's see what we can do from the web portal. So the cluster admin, the tenant admin, and the normal user can all access the files and folders view. So for the files and folders view, you can see there's activity panel, and at the center of the screen, those are the files and folders view. You can have the icon view, and then you can browse into the folder, get out of the folder. You can see the preview of the files. You can do drag and drop of the files into the web portal. If the browser is new enough, for example, if it's Internet Explorer 8 or 9, you probably will not be able to do drag and drop upload. But for Chrome, IE 11, IE 10, you should be able to. So now let's pick a version folder to see what version control looks like. So this test document has 3 different versions. So you can see the different versions, and if you want to revert to them, you can do so. And now we just deleted the file, but because it's under version control, we can simply revert the deletion and then get the file back. So that's version control. You can do that from the web portal to manage your files and folders. You can also switch to a different color if you like. Even though the tenant, the cluster, they may set a color theme for the company or for the solution for the managed service provider himself, but as a user, you are able to switch to a different color if you want to. So you can look at the files and folders from the web portal, but that's not the only place you can look at the files and folders. You can download the desktop client for Windows. You can have server agent for the file server. If you do manage file servers, you can have Mac client and you can have the mobile client. So you have different access client, different places you can look at your files and folders without the need to use the VPN to connect to your company's file server. So the file server content can be synchronized to the cloud, and then you can look at the content from the web browser if you are on At the airport, you can look at the files and folders from the iPhone, Android phone, and multiple places. Here's a quick review of the web portal in mid-2016. Thank you.